Where are they? Is the question on my mind today. They, of course, are those members of my own family or friends who have passed away, or really the many parishioners that I've had the privilege to bury as a priest in the last few years. Christmas, really the holidays in general, while certainly a joyful time, is also a time I look around and remember those who are kind of missing from the table, so to speak. When I remember my loved ones and the people I know who have passed away, I wonder, where are they? And it certainly can be a sad time if we keep our eyes fixed on the here and now and recognizing their absence as final. And while many of us may be still mourning the loss of our loved ones this Christmas, especially the ones that we've lost in the last year, as real as that pain is, what we need as believers or as Christians is an eternal perspective. Some of us have on our kind of driver's license a note on the back that reads, for people like me that use glasses, corrective lenses or needs corrective lenses. I think we all need that note, at least with respect to our sight with regards to death. Scripture says in the book of Wisdom, in a passage that is often read at funerals, but I don't think is often really listened to all that much. It reads, "The souls of the just are in the hand of God, and no torment shall touch them. They seemed, in the view of the foolish, to be dead, and their passing away was thought an affliction, and their going forth from us, utter destruction. But they are in peace." This is an eternal perspective, given the fact that it's Gaudete Sunday, and Christmas is just right around the corner, and it's often a time that we remember the dead, whether we want to or not. I thought I would preach on hope, or rather really the fulfillment and reason for our hope, and that's heaven. I want to share just 3 quick points. First, heaven is home. Second, heaven is bodily. And third, the greatest joy of heaven is being with and seeing God. First, heaven is home. St. Peter, in his first letter, exhorts the Christians to conduct themselves, really ourselves, in a particular way in this exile that we are living. We can't remind ourselves of that fact enough. We are exiles, sojourners, pilgrims, travelers, heading somewhere. Life can be many days good, some days great even, oftentimes downright lousy, and occasionally life is just brutal. But this is not home. Jesus says in the Gospel of John, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Have faith in God. Have faith also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again, and I will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you also may be." Paul, in his letter to the Philippians, reminds us that our citizenship is in heaven, not here. We're exiles. Second, heaven is bodily. And I think this is huge for some people. Somehow, we didn't get this in the Creed, even though we read this week after week on Sundays. We say we believe in the resurrection of the body. Some don't really think we mean that, but we do. When we die, it's not as if the soul is going to escape this body and be freed from the prison that is just this stuff. The body will eventually rise. Jesus ascended into heaven in his glorified body. Mary was assumed into heaven with her body. She now shares in the everlasting life that is God's life in heaven, and that you and I too will be divinized in our bodies, not just our souls. Now, what's that body going to look like? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? C.S. Lewis, the great Christian author of the 20th century, used this image that I've found to be helpful. And just as looking at a zygote, the early stages of human life, you would never guess that one day that zygote would look like me or look like you. And so by looking at you, you would never guess that one day you would look like X, whatever X is in heaven. There's this continuum. There's the zygote, there's you, and then there's this glorified body. It's the same person, it just keeps getting glorified. So what's that mean? It means that you and I in heaven are going to be doing things. Saying, may they rest in peace, can be misleading, as rest, at least for me, usually conjures up an image of just laying around on the couch all day. Rest in the proper sense brings to mind the time I took vacation this past summer in Sonoma County with some friends from seminary. Took 10 days off or so, and we had great food. We had some great walks, hikes, did a bunch of wine tours, which was really nice. Read a little bit. And it occurred to me how much I was at peace and what it really meant to rest in peace. While I was on vacation, I did plenty. My days were full, but there was really no compulsion. I didn't have to do anything, but I did do much. We will do things in heaven. Third, and perhaps this is the most difficult to get, the greatest joy in heaven among all the joys of heaven is going to be with and seeing God. There's no sickness, there's no sadness, there's no sorrow, there's no locks, there's no fear, there's no goodbyes, there's no cancer, there's no tragedy. But as great as all that will be, it doesn't compare to the beauty that is seeing God. Because God gave you and me eyes to see beauty. And there is nothing or no one who is as majestic or able to hold our attention and our fascination like God. And one day, please God, you and I will see him and be with him. And just as I and you can spend all day looking at a sunrise or a sunset that sinks beneath the horizon and really nothing is happening, we're not really doing anything but watching, it moves our soul. So looking at God is much like that. May, by God's grace, those members of our families and friends, as well as ourselves, gaze upon God face to face.